My name is Virgine, and this is episode 1 of a podcast I think I'm doing called Yarn and Glass. The yarn being mostly knitting, and the glass being mosaics, my two passions. When I'm sitting wherever, I'm knitting or doing some sort of needlework. But if I'm not sitting, I'm most likely in the studio doing mosaics. And what I'm going to do in this podcast, if I continue it, really, this is hard, is I'm going to do little snippets of things throughout the month. I'm taking this off of another podcaster that I really like. Her podcast is Not Quite Enough Yarn. She's from England, and I think her name is Leslie. And she does little bits throughout the month, videoing different things she's doing or projects she's working on, or anyway, different parts of her life throughout the month, and then puts it into one podcast at the end of the month. And I thought, well, that's the way I would try it, because I'm doing pretty much two different hobbies here. So some of it is going to be my works in progress in knitting and things that I'm making and my crazy amount of yarn that I have. And the other is going to be showing you different techniques or different things that I'm doing in the studio with mosaics. So two of my passions, there's one of my mosaics right there, blue heron, and there's one way back there, you can't even see, black iris. But they're all over the house, and I will be showing some of those as we go. This is just a little introduction, but on social media, and I've got to figure out how to do writing on this because I don't understand that part, but I will get it eventually. But on social media, I am with the knitting on Ravelry. I'm Mosaic Madness, and I have a pretty small Instagram account under the knitting, with the knitting, called Knitting Mosaic Madness. With the mosaics, I have a bigger presence. I have a blog and a Facebook page and an Etsy shop and a Instagram account under Mosaics by Virgine, and it's Mosaics by Virgine, Virgene. I had to grow into that name. Anyway, so this is my little introduction. And the rest of the podcast will be different parts of the month, sometimes with my husband Charlie filming. Right now we are in northern Minnesota enjoying the summer here and maybe part of the fall. And yeah, so that's me. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. If there are more than 2 people, or not only 2 people watching this, and their relatives, I may not continue it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I thought it would be fun to try it. So there it is. I'm going to take you on a little tour of my studio, Mosaics by Virgine. Anyway, we had this built about 10 years ago, and I love it so much. It is facing or backing to a lake, and there's it's a mess right now. There's a lot of equipment, saw and a grinder, and a rock tumbler that is tumbling stained glass. And these are all drawers of glass that has been tumbled the color, so that when I want a specific color, I just pull out the drawer, and tumbling it allows me to do that without getting cut, although I still get cut. But it also gets rid of all the sharp corners and pieces. Yeah, so I've got some of my work on the wall here. Oh, there's Gracie the winery dog. There's a story about Gracie the winery dog. I did an art show at a winery near here, and a man came into the tent carrying Gracie, and I asked if I could take a photograph of his dog, who had her tongue out, and he said sure. So I'm hoping that when I do that show this year, Gracie's owner shows up to see that I have mosaiced his dog. And, well, there's a few more. There's my VW bus, which is fun to have in a show because it gets a lot of people looking at it. Yeah, different pieces, horse. This is all the sheets of glass that I cut up. There's some shells from the Gulf Shore. That's just some of them. There are a lot of shells, even though I don't use shells a lot, but I have done some pieces with shells. What I'm working on now is Wolf. He's almost done. Yeah, I kind of love him. I kind of love his eyes. Oh, there's glare there. And I'm working on a moon mosaic. And this is woven from on an ankle loom, and my husband Charlie routs out my frames. He makes most of my frames, and he routs it out and this is to the exact width of the ankle piece that I have made. So that's going to be fun. So it'll have 3 birds and the moon and then sky. And the other thing that's in here is insane because it's enormous, and it's called Kansas. And that whole bottom part, it was originally planned to be all sunflowers going all the way across, but now I've realized that I won't finish that in my lifetime because this is the width of my table, and this piece started because of that little windmill. I wanted to do a windmill, and then I found this frame, this kind of hand carved frame in an antique store, and it just called out to me to put that little windmill on it, and then Kansas grew. But it's really big. I don't know how I'm gonna finish that, but maybe someday. So that is the studio in progress, work in progress. Lots of works in progress always, usually 2 to 3 on the table. Occasionally I teach classes, so then I have to clean this all up and have 2 or 3 students in here, but right now it's kind of a mess. There was a gal that gave me, for a very reasonable price, a lot of her glass. She was moving, and so right now I'm sorting glass and getting it sorted into its respective places over there. So right now I'm tumbling a lot and sorting a lot of glass, but mainly I've been working on Wolf. I love Wolf. Anyway, that's the studio. Yeah, we'll come back, but we'll go in and out. Hi, this is Virgine, and this segment is about knitting, and Charlie is filming.
I'm filming.
Say hello, Charlie.
Hello, Charlie.
And okay, so I wanted to tell you about, we took a 2-week trip. Our daughter got married in St. Louis. So we were there for a while, and then we house cat sat for a while. And anyway, I didn't know how many projects to take, and I took quite a few. I have more than I took, actually, because I have a lot of things on the needles all the time, because I don't know why, because I get bored or whatever. But I wanted to show you some of actually all the things that I took and what progress I made on them. So I always have socks going because they're good car things, especially. So these socks were about half done. These are Charlie's birthday socks.
Thank you.
They don't have feet yet, but they have heels, and those are made out of Osterman step yarn. And what I'm trying to do is actually use up a lot of yarn because we are probably moving out of Minnesota, and I have a lot of yarn. I have a lot of glass.
She's
I
got
have a lot of yarn, and that's a problem, but that's okay. A second pair of socks is a scrap pair, so I'm just combining. Well, actually, this pair I finished. These are also Charlie's.
I like those. Those are nice.
And no, this is the step yarn. I was wrong. This is the step yarn. And I had some left because I think I had 2 balls of that. And so I put some Felici in here and some Knit Pick something is the green. And so I'm just making some scrap socks for me because I like them. And that's 1, 2, 3 pairs. And then there was a 4th pair that I took, but I only got a little bit past the ribbing. I don't know what yarn this is either. I'm going to get better at this, but I'm really bad because there's no ball band. You guys probably even recognize what it is, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to say. Okay, so those are the socks. There were a lot of socks that happened, and those I can just pick up and work on. I finished 2 shawls. They were probably 3/4 done, so I didn't have a lot to do. This is Woolenbein yarn, and then some Hawthorne black. Is that the front? No. Anyway, it's just a nice drapey shawl. The ends aren't done yet, but that's okay. And then this one was also almost done. And this one I started because I was teaching a friend how to knit, and I started her on a really easy shawl, and I thought I'd make one with her. And then I kind of made up my own pattern, but this is all yarn that I dyed myself.
Whoa.
So it's the yellow and then different variations of color from green to red or purple. So that's a second shawl that I made on the trip, or finished on the trip. Then these are dragon fingerless gloves that I make out of chroma fingering weight. And I looked at a lot of patterns for these and kind of ended up making up my own pattern using the crocodile stitch. I have a lot of knitted items in a shop in Walker that's near here, and I sell a lot of these there. But anyway, I made 2 pairs of those, and I made 2, well, almost 2, 1 and almost. Anemone hats. I don't know who that's by. Anemone hat. Did I say this was the Trillion show? I didn't. Oh, I'm so bad at this. It's my first time. I'm sorry. This is an anemone hat, and I actually don't know the designer of that either, but it's fun to knit. You make these funny tendrils on it. This one's a little easier to see. It's a child's hat. So there's that. And I am doing a scrap blanket. This is my second one, color blocking a scrap blanket, and this is a corner of what it's going to be. So it's got a wider border here and here, and so there's color blocked. So I've got quite a few squares almost done of this. Actually my first one that I made, I gave to my daughter for her shower. So this is the second one I'm making, and then I have 2 other scrap blankets going that are bigger, and they're just mitered squares. They're not color blocked. I made 7 dishcloths because why not? Because I have a lot of cotton yarn that needs to go, and so it's becoming dishcloths. The Airbnb that we stayed in for a little while in between the wedding and the house sitting didn't have any dishcloths, so I knit them a couple. I think I left them 2, and then I have a friend who really likes these, and I sent her 5 of them, or 4 or 5 of them. So I made quite a few of those, and I'm doing a sweater, and it's called Rose Quartz, and this is Mrs. Crosby hat box in the toucan colorway. And the problem with this sweater is, it's a lovely sweater. It's a cardigan, but I didn't take the right skeins with me, or I wasn't using 2 skeins, whatever that's called. Back and forth 2 skeins, because I should have, because there you see the huge difference in skeins. And instead of pulling all of that out, then I started, God, what's the word for that? What's the word, Charlie?
For pulling the skeins out?
No.
No.
For doing 2 dye lots, you do a couple rows with one, and then you do a couple rows with the other. And there's a word, but it's out.
Hey, we don't need the word. It's okay.
I'm old. I'll think of it later. Anyway, I didn't do that, and there's a line here, and I decided, instead of pulling it out, I think
it's kind of cool myself.
I would own it. I would just own it and make it look like it's a bodice. And then the sleeves, I have another light skein, so I'll do the sleeves light. I don't know.
Show them that the sweater on the chair there that you did before that.
This I worked on the trip, but this I wore on the trip. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to make another one of these because I love this sweater.
I like the...
this is called Nested.
That's cool. I like that too in the back.
I don't know who it's by.
It's by somebody. We don't care.
It's by somebody? No, we do care.
Oh, we care.
Oh, this is by Vera Velamaki. That I do know. This is Nested, and I love this cardigan. That's the pattern cool. has it have long sleeves, but I really like the short sleeves. I made it a little longer. I put short rows in it that weren't in the pattern, I don't think, unless I missed them. But isn't it? I really like it.
It is cool.
But I'm thinking I'm gonna make the same sweater and dye yarn that becomes a fade, which is sort of what I'm doing here in a way, but a real fade. Dye different skeins of blues, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
That would be cool.
If I get myself going. And that's what I made on our trip.
She worked hard.
I did, while you drove.
Well, I drove everywhere. My God. Okay, I'm going to turn this thing off now.
Okay, bye.
Nice talking to y'all.
Hi, this is Virgin again. Back in the studio. Charlie's filming me, the Phantom Charlie.
I'm filming, yep.
He's filming me. Someday I'll put him on camera if I ever do this again.
No. Go ahead.
So I am working on a Lazy Susan right now. This is going to be for Art in the Park. I have 2 shows coming up that I need to get a lot of pieces ready for. And one is Art in the Park in Bemidji in July, 3rd weekend of July, and the other one is at a winery in LaPorte, Minnesota, called Forest Edge, and it's the 3rd weekend in August. So I have a month in between, but I do a lot of these Lazy Susans, so that this is one here. And what I do is I have the glass. I have it mostly done, but I take. This looks like it's Elmer's glue, but it isn't. It's Wellbond glue, and what I do is I buy these little Elmer glues and empty them and put the Wellbond in them, so that it's just easier to use, even though it gets plugged up. And I keep it upside down in some sort of container where a lot of glue ends up, but that's okay. I'd rather waste glue than wait for it to come to the top. So if you understand what I mean, it's always ready. So what I do is I have the pieces here ready. These green pieces are a little tricky because one side's smooth and one side's shiny. Oh, the word is alternating skeins in knitting. In another segment I did.
That's a real learning thing for me. I like that.
Which is an easy word, and I guess I thought it was a more complicated knitting word, but it's just alternating skeins.
There'll be a test later for you guys.
Anyway, yeah, they already know.
Okay.
So what I do is I hold the glue upside down, and so it's ready to go, and I find the piece that will go where I want it to go, and it's pretty much like doing a puzzle. I put a dot there. Sometimes I lay out. I did in this blue. I laid them all out, and then what I do is when they're all in there. Say I want to do that one. That whole thing is ready. I put a little glue on my finger. Lift it up. Lift it up, put a little glue on it, put it down. You don't want too much glue because the glue that you see in between the pieces, I'm going to have to use a handy dental pick to remove so that it doesn't show when I grout it. A little glue won't show, but...
I've got a question for you.
Questions
the
are
blue,
good.
especially the blue, looks like it's really close. The lines are really close. How do you get them so close like that?
I'm very particular. I'm very particular about the grout line being almost non-existent, being very, very small.
Yes,
So
yeah.
if I see a space in here where I think it's too big of a grout line, I'll put a tiny piece in there. So yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
I'm
cool.
pretty, I hate the word anal, but pretty anal about it.
Well, we can't do that on this
Oh, okay.
podcast.
No, there's no such words on this because I have to be good. I have to be good and
You have
use
to be good.
really good language
Yes,
because
good
they'll
language.
throw me off, right?
Yeah.
Won't they?
The 4 people will throw you
The
off.
4 people will toss me out of the group, and I will no longer be able to ever do this again,
That's right.
or even twice. So that's a problem. So that's how I do that. Yeah. And what else?
Well, I have another question for
Yeah.
you. You have
Wolf is over there.
here.
Wolf is done.
But I have
and-
another question for
Yeah.
you. Do you find this unbearable?
No, it's a wolf. But the thing is, when on the other video that I showed, the other segment, the wolf had a really strange. It looked like a smile,
Yeah.
and it looked like he was smiling at you, and it was really his jawline. But I took that all out from what you
Yeah.
saw before,
Yeah.
and I made just a slight jawline so that he wasn't so smiley, because he really was creepy before with his eyes and his smile.
Okay. The other question I have for you, can you tell them the bear story?
The bear
We
story.
have a bear story real quick,
Okay, real quick. There was our neighbors called 2 nights ago or 2 mornings ago and said that, how are your bird feeders? And I said, well, they're fine. We had actually just put one bird feeder up. It's probably 20 feet in the air, but it was up. And she said they had a bear last night in their yard, which is next door. And the
knocked it.
dog was going crazy.
Yeah.
They have a black lab that was just going nuts for an hour, and they couldn't figure out why she wouldn't settle down, and that was the reason. There was a bear outside.
And last night there was also a bear.
And then she texted this morning and said, did the bear visit you? Or did you hear the bear? And we didn't, of course, because we're sleeping. But we don't have a dog right now, but we will.
Later we're gonna have a dog.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to work here.
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah. So that's how I mostly do the mosaics piece by piece, planning the colors, getting out the colors from my stash of colors. Yeah, and that's, I've shown some of that before. But,
Okay, I won't show any more of it. Here we
and
go.
don't go over there because that is a mess.
Okay, over
That's
here to the
all
mess.
that glass that was given to me, and it's like,
Tell us about the new thing with the glass in it. It's
Oh,
sticking
that's
up.
cool. This is
Yeah, why
going
don't
to
you
be,
pick that up and show them?
all right,
Because that's cool.
is going to be
And it's a brand new.
in
Oop,
the park.
This is going to have.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, isn't it?
So it's glass. I'm going to do glass on glass, kind of like stained glass, but with grout instead of foil. And yeah, and then if you light it behind, it will be.
I think it's going to be cool.
Pretty much like stained glass.
You had them fix the edges on that glass.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't cut.
this is really smooth. I have. There's a glass company in town who does quite a lot of cutting for me. Even though I cut glass, I can't do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
cool.
just perfect, lovely,
Lovely.
ground corners.
Yeah, that's going to be great, I think.
So that I do have to work on, but you'll see it maybe in another time.
Another time.
And yeah, that's work in the studio right now. Oh, I was going to show you one more thing. I forgot.
Okay, it's all right.
I have.
Okay, where are we going? I don't know where we're going. I'm scared.
So it's these pieces here.
Oh yeah, those are
The
cool.
arms and the legs, or whatever they're called, and the head, I cut out with the saw. And I saved the tail so you could see the saw in action.
Oh, we're going to saw some.
See
Okay,
there?
cool.
So I drew the tail on there, and then I used Vaseline to cover so that, because it's going to squirt water, so that the felt tip line doesn't go away while I'm grinding.
You can see this is well scripted show here.
You see, we're so good. Here's my
Oh
little
yeah,
speaker,
here we go.
so I can listen to podcasts. All right, so here's the saw. Oh, wait, one other thing. Wait, stop.
Okay.
No, don't stop.
Don't stop. I'm
Don't stop.
turning around here. Okay, here we go.
Very important, safety glasses.
Safety glasses.
I usually actually have these on the whole time I'm in here.
Yeah.
Our daughter is an optometrist, and we worked with visually impaired and blind children for many, many years. These are important.
Those are important.
Yes.
I agree.
You
Okay,
agree.
here we go.
Okay, here we go with saw. It's gonna make a
Saw's
lot of
coming.
noise. Wait, don't worry.
Here we go. Voila, a tail.
Okay, then it's
How
got
come
a
you-
couple bumps on it. So then, let's get rid of this guy.
Okay.
Then we'll use the grinder. Getting rid of the sharp corners because making a little curve in there so it'll fit on the body. But I don't want any sharp corners on the Lazy Susan because it's something that people might be cleaning. And
Yeah.
paper towels are over here because this place is a mess. I don't want anybody to get cut. You don't want to get cut.
Yeah, you don't.
This is a
that's true.
hindrance to knitting, by the way. I have two hobbies that are fighting with each other. Okay, so there is this little tail.
Whoa!
Aha!
Yeehaw!
Cool.
That's very
Okay.
nice. I like that.
Segment over.
Segment over.
Bye.
Here we go.